The group descending from the sky turns out to be the arrogant genius, Sire, and the other recruits who had run off into the battlefield earlier. The red-haired genius leads the charge, diving toward the group with incredible speed. Saya looks up in surprise as he recognizes the new arrivals, exclaiming in shock that Sire and his group have returned. Wiping sweat from his forehead, Saya breathes a sigh of relief. He admits he was terrified for a moment, thinking a powerful enemy was attacking, and wonders aloud how a guy like Sayer managed to survive out there. However, Lu Sheng's expression instantly hardens as he senses that something is deeply wrong. As Sayer and his followers land, they stand silently with blank, eerie expressions. A strange, twisted energy surrounds them, giving off an unsettling aura that Lu Sheng immediately notices. Lu Sheng's suspicion is confirmed when he sees a massive, spectral projection of the exotic beast, a terrifying, dragon-like head, looming behind Sayer. He realizes Sayer has been possessed and is now being controlled by that guy, the invisible level 13 beast. Lu Sheng narrows his eyes, analyzing the situation. It seems the enemy has finally lost its patience and is ready to attack head-on. However, he notes with disdain that the beast still refuses to show its true body, preferring to hide and use puppets like a coward. Sensing the immediate threat, the tension in the air skyrockets. A hand reaches out, pulling a long spear from the void. Another hand grips the hilt of a combat knife, drawing it, ready for battle. The red-haired officer and the gluttonous captain stand back to back, weapons drawn. The officer wields a long staff while the captain holds a blade, and they both stare down the possessed recruits with grim determination. From the back, Lu Sheng watches the scene unfold, analyzing the enemy's tactics. He compares the invisible level 13 beast to a warlock from a video game, a schemer who hides in the shadows and manipulates puppets. It seems the two guides have also finally realized something is wrong. Even though the returning recruits are technically their companions, the air is thick with suspicion. The other recruits, all sharp level 12 warriors, can also sense that something is off. No one dares to approach Sayer's group, watching them with guarded expressions. Sayer breaks the tense silence with a casual wave. He addresses the guides, asking if it's really necessary to draw their weapons just because his group stepped away for a bit without notice. Hovering above, the red-haired officer and the gluttonous captain remain on guard, weapons at the ready. The captain coldly retorts that it's not up to Sayer to decide how serious the situation is. He warns them that leaving without permission is a major offense, and if they don't explain themselves, being sent home will be their lightest punishment. Sayer glares at the captain, his casual demeanor slipping for a moment. However, he quickly adopts a more reasonable tone, admitting to the officers that leaving the team without permission was their fault. He then tries to justify their actions. Floating in the air, he claims they had a good reason. They found a gathering place for exotic beasts, a perfect hunting ground filled with countless beast cores. He explains that he knew the officers would never agree to let them go, so they decided to act alone. At the mention of a hunting ground, the red-haired officer's hostile expression softens, her interest clearly piqued by the possibility of so many resources. The other possessed recruits behind Sayer quickly back up his story. A bald recruit speaks up, confirming that Sayer is telling the truth and they only left to hunt for more beast cores. The bald recruit continues to argue their case, saying their whole reason for coming to the different sky battlefield is to get stronger. Since the cores are the best way to do that, he insists they didn't do anything wrong. Another gray-haired recruit chimes in with a smile, pointing out that even though they left, they all returned safe and sound, so no harm was done. Their united front and seemingly reasonable excuses leave the guides uncertain. The red-haired officer turns to the gluttonous captain, asking what he thinks, as they both look conflicted. Seeing them hesitate, Sayer seizes the opportunity and proposes a solution. He extends his hand, activating his spatial storage. A massive torrent of glowing orbs pours from his hand, swirling through the air before crashing onto the ground below. A huge pile of valuable shining exotic beast cores forms in front of everyone. Sayer offers this massive fortune to the guides, saying they should accept the cores as an apology. Sayer announces that this massive pile of crystals is only half of their total haul, and he declares they're willing to share all of it with the rest of the team. Standing casually beside the mountain of glowing blue treasure, he lays out his condition. All this wealth is theirs, as long as the two officers let his group rejoin the team without punishment. The sheer number of exotic beast cores sends a shockwave of greed through the other recruits. Sayer's eyes go wide as he shouts in disbelief that the mountain of wealth is only half of what they found. Greed instantly takes hold of Sayer. He excitedly grabs the silent rock man, Tang Dun, and yells that Sire must have robbed an ancestral beast grave to get so many cores. He starts fantasizing about the power boost he'd get from absorbing them, convincing himself it's safe by remembering the captain's purification technique. The temptation is too much for the other recruits to resist. One by one, their faces filled with greed, they begin walking toward the pile of crystals, straight into the trap. As the recruits draw closer, a creepy, unnatural smile spreads across their faces. Seeing the mood of the team shift, the gluttonous captain seems to waver. He turns to the red-haired officer and hesitantly suggests that maybe they should just forgive the group this one time. However, the captain is sweating nervously. He leans close to the red-haired officer and whispers his true thoughts. He's realized that this rabbit, Sire, is using the team's greed to pressure them, and he is certain Sire has bad intentions. Meanwhile, Lu Sheng watches the unfolding drama with a sharp, piercing gaze. A faint, amused smile plays on his lips. It's surprising the enemy didn't just attack directly. Finding the situation entertaining, he mentally invites them to start their little show, eager to see what tricks they have up their sleeve. The red-haired officer and the gluttonous captain descend to the ground, seemingly ready to make a deal. Sire spreads his arms with a triumphant, manipulative smile. He sweetens the deal, telling the officers that if they agree now, he'll have a separate, private gift for them back at the base. Leaning close to the gluttonous captain, Sire adds another piece of bait to the trap. He whispers that he can also share the coordinates of the beast gathering place he discovered. The red-haired officer leans over to the captain, who pretends to ponder the offer with a serious expression. After a moment, she makes her decision, giving a slight nod of agreement. Seeing her nod, Sire's grin widens, believing his plan has worked. "So we have an agreement?" he asks, clapping his hands together. But the gluttonous captain steps forward with a disarmingly gentle smile. He calmly addresses Sire, remarking that after his little trip, he's become exceptionally polite. The captain continues, explaining that while he doesn't know Sire well, he remembers his arrogant personality. The real Sire would never bother calling them officers. Furthermore, the captain points to the mountain of crystals, adding that the real Sire would never be generous enough to share so many valuable beast cores. The captain's expression turns cold and intense as he concludes that the change in Sire's personality is simply too great. The captain's sharp deduction catches the possessed recruit completely off guard. Sire's eyes widen in shock, and for a split second, the vertical red slit of the beast within him becomes visible as his disguise falters. Flustered and exposed, the possessed Sire clenches his fists and angrily shouts back. He tries to defend himself, arguing that he's young and changes quickly, then furiously asks the captain what he's trying to imply. The gluttonous captain gives him a calm smile and says his words make sense, and for that reason, he chooses to believe him. Just as a smug grin appears on Sire's face, thinking his manipulation worked, the captain adds a crucial condition. He says that whether or not Sire can truly be trusted is something Lord Haiji Dao will verify in person when he arrives. The sudden turn of events leaves the possessed Sire completely stunned and cornered. Standing beside the red-haired officer, the captain assures Sire they'll put in a good word for him with the Lord, making it clear that their decision is final. The possessed Sire's composure finally shatters. His face falls into shadow as he trembles with rage. He clenches his fists so hard his knuckles turn white, barely managing to speak to the two officers. With their trick completely exposed, Sire and his group of possessed recruits drop the act. Their hostile auras surge as they demand to know why the guides are being so difficult. The other possessed warriors behind him lose their patience. One complains that this was a waste of time and they should have just attacked from the start. Another agrees, boasting that with their current strength, they could easily crush them. Sire screams in frustration, revealing his allegiance. "Our master doesn't like to do things out in the open," he yells, complaining that he had no choice but to follow orders. With the plan in ruins, Sire drops all pretense. He stomps his foot, cracking the ground beneath him as he leaps forward. Filled with rage, he charges directly at the red-haired officer, screaming an insult and declaring that he's been wanting to deal with her for a long time. Lu Sheng grabs the shoulder of the possessed recruit, pretending to check if he's okay. In reality, he's baiting the invisible enemy, daring it to attack him. His eyes glow with an intense light as he braces for the mental assault. Lu Sheng intentionally drops his mental guard, allowing the beast's cold, purple spiritual power to flood his mind. A look of shock suddenly crosses his face, making it seem as if the foreign energy is overwhelming him. The beast tries to shatter his will with visions of humiliation and bullying, a crowd calling him useless, a thug stealing his money, and someone stepping on his face for not greeting them. To any onlooker, the attack appears to be working. Lu Sheng clutches his head, seemingly overwhelmed by a storm of frustration, anger, and rage. Veins bulge on his forehead as his face twists in fury. He curses loudly, looking like he's completely fallen under the beast's control. He lets out a massive roar, and an uncontrolled surge of energy erupts from his body. Lu Sheng's appearance turns terrifying. Cracks of energy spread across his face, one eye glowing blue and the other red, as if he has finally given in to the madness. A massive demonic avatar made of raging fire forms around him, floating in the air with a twisted, malicious smile. But this was all just a show. In reality, Lu Sheng stands perfectly calm on the ground, looking down at a tiny, harmless version of the fiery demon by his feet. He glances at the tiny manifestation of his own anger with a bored expression. A confident smile spreads across Lu Sheng's face. He's figured it out. The entity controls people by amplifying their negative emotions until they snap, but he knows such a simple trick is useless against his mental discipline. Lu Sheng then reveals the truth. His earlier outburst was just an act. He used an emotion-filled clone as bait to lure the enemy into his trap. With a look of disdain, he exhales a powerful blast of blue mental energy, taunting his opponent. "Is that really all you've got?" The dark, fiery presence screams in agony as Lu Sheng's power burns it away, completely erasing it. As the evil fire vanishes and the red haze over the area lifts, the martial artists who were driven mad slowly come back to their senses. The pointy-eared recruit stands up and scratches his head in confusion, unable to remember what just happened, while Lu Sheng stands calmly behind him, his plan a success. But Lu Sheng isn't finished yet. His eyes glow with blue power as he sends a telepathic message, delivering a calm but sharp taunt to the hidden entity he knows is watching. Inside the mental realm, surrounded by purple flames, Lu Sheng arrogantly tells the invisible foe that it's too weak and should train for another 100 years before challenging him again. His taunt works perfectly. The void itself seems to turn red with rage as the hidden entity glares back with pure hatred and killing intent. Lu Sheng looks up at the darkened sky with a satisfied smirk, amused that his simple words were enough to enrage such a powerful being. Suddenly, Lu Sheng puts on a look of surprise as he feels a pull on his consciousness. He finds himself transported again, landing gracefully inside the emotional space, curious to see what new tricks the enemy has in store. He looks up, his gaze calm and analytical. A colossal, shadowy figure wrapped in dark flames and purple energy towers over him. Lu Sheng casually notes that the entity seems to have gotten a little stronger since their last encounter. Lu Sheng focuses his mental energy, preparing to strike back. He decides to give the entity a gift for its efforts, a blast of power to cool its temper. With a confident look, he extends his hand. A massive pillar of blue spiritual energy shoots upward, tearing through the mental space and striking the fiery entity. As the dust settles, Lu Sheng smirks at his hand and mocks his opponent. He wonders aloud if the entity was just too weak or if he's become too strong, because the fight was pathetic. Through this mental battle, Lu Sheng senses the enemy retreating. He realizes the clash has given him valuable insight, deepening his understanding of the Tao of emotions. Back in the physical world, as the group continues their journey, the hidden entity tries to attack again in secret, but Lu Sheng interferes once more, causing the targeted warrior to snap out of his trance screaming in terror. The warrior looks around, confused, asking what just happened. Lu Sheng plays innocent and asks if he's alright, while thinking to himself that he's been secretly blocking the entity's attacks over and over. But these constant interruptions are having an effect. Deep in the void, a massive, glowing red eye snaps open, glaring with pure fury. Lu Sheng's interference is making the hidden beast furious. Meanwhile, the guides are feeling the pressure. The red-haired officer, sweating, turns to the gluttonous captain and asks what they should do. Her expression turns grim as she scans the recruits, realizing that despite their efforts, more people have gone missing from the group. From the back of the group, Lu Sheng watches the guides with a serious expression. He thinks about the situation, admitting that even though he stopped the entity several times, it was still clever enough to snatch a few victims when no one was looking. The red-haired officer orders the recruits to stop and rest, telling them to wait for Lord Haijidao to arrive for support and urging them not to panic. This announcement shocks Saya and the others. "We have to wait again?" Saya asks in disbelief. Sweating with anxiety, Saya complains that the situation is too strange and frantically asks where the missing people could have gone. Tangdun, looking just as worried, asks Saya for a plan, but Saya is too frustrated to give an answer. Suddenly, they hear footsteps approaching, and a calm voice asks, "What are you so afraid of? Just wait." It's Lu Sheng, looking calm and collected in his suit. He reassures them that the level 13 expert from the base is on his way. Completely relieved to see him alive, Saya bursts into tears and throws his arms around Lu Sheng, sobbing that he thought Lu Sheng had disappeared too. Lu Sheng, looking uncomfortable, asks him to keep his distance. Even after the group stopped to wait, the invisible enemy didn't give up, trying to possess the recruits several more times. A recruit screams in agony as the dark influence begins to take him over. But with everyone standing still, Lu Sheng can easily monitor the group. He places a hand on the possessed recruit's shoulder, and his power instantly snaps the man out of the trance, blocking the enemy's attempt. Lu Sheng again plays innocent, asking the confused recruit if he's alright. The man just looks around, completely unaware of what just happened. After a third failed attempt, the enemy finally seems to give up. Lu Sheng observes the now quiet surroundings, thinking to himself that the entity has surrendered for now. The gluttonous captain announces to the group that their backup, Lord Haiji Dao, will arrive in half a cosmic day. This news brings a wave of relief to the terrified recruits. Saya, Tang Dun, and the others cheer with excitement, celebrating that they finally have a lifeline. The mood among the survivors improves drastically as they quietly count down the time, filled with hope. Finally, the wait is over. One of the recruits looks up, shouting that he can sense a powerful energy approaching. A brilliant light descends rapidly from the pink sky, and the recruits yell with excitement, certain that their savior has arrived. However, the gluttonous captain looks confused. He checks his watch in shock, realizing something is wrong. He floats up beside the red-haired officer and tells the group he just spoke with Lord Haiji Dao. Their backup has been delayed and needs more time, which means the powerful being now descending is not who they were expecting. The realization strikes Tang Dun and the others with a new wave of terror. They look up at the approaching light in shock, stammering, "If it's not our ally, then who is it?" The red-haired officer stares upward, her face filled with anxiety and dread. She's sweating as a horrifying suspicion about the visitor's identity begins to form in her mind. The fight starts immediately as Sayer launches his attack. The red-haired officer and the gluttonous captain are forced to dodge quickly as Sayer charges at them with incredible speed, leaving trails of energy behind him. Laughing like a madman, Sayer releases a massive blast of light and power, aiming it directly at the red-haired officer. She looks up in total shock, barely managing to react in time to the overwhelming power of his attack. The impact creates a massive explosion of blue energy that rips through the space around them. The two guides are sent flying back, barely avoiding the worst of the blast. As they tumble through the air, they realize the situation is much worse than they expected. After steadying herself, the red-haired officer stares at Sayer in disbelief. She starts sweating as she senses his aura, realizing with horror that he has somehow absorbed 5 different galactic rules into his body. The gluttonous captain floats next to her, looking just as terrified. He confirms her fears, noting that Sayer only had the strength of 3 incarnations before. He gloomily concludes that with this sudden, unnatural surge in power, they are no longer a match for him. After pushing the commanders back, Sayer turns his attention to his followers. With a cruel, bloodthirsty grin, he orders the other possessed recruits to join the fight and show everyone what they are truly capable of. The group of possessed warriors obeys instantly, charging at the terrified survivors while screaming for them to die. The two sides clash immediately and violently. One survivor tries to defend himself with a sword, but the possessed recruits have become unnaturally strong. With a single hit, an enemy shatters the survivor's weapon and slashes his chest, sending blood flying everywhere. The rest of the recruits try to block the assault, but they are quickly overwhelmed. One survivor struggles against a flurry of punches, realizing in despair that it isn't just Sayer who has changed. All of the enemies have become much stronger. Many of the possessed recruits who previously had only 1 galactic rule have now evolved to have 2 or even 3. Even though there are only 8 of them, they are like tigers attacking a flock of sheep. In an instant, they begin to massacre the other warriors, breaking through their defenses and dominating the field. The battle continues with brutal intensity. The possessed recruits show off their overwhelming strength, especially a bald recruit who lands a devastating kick that sends a survivor flying through the void, screaming in pain. Watching the slaughter, Saya is filled with panic and disbelief. He watches the chaotic fight and shouts in confusion, asking if these people took some kind of miracle pill. He cannot understand how they all suddenly reached the same high level of strength that Sayer had before. Lu Sheng stands calmly behind the panicking Saya. With a serious face, he asks his friend if he still hasn't figured out the truth of the situation. Lu Sheng's eyes glow with a red light as he uses his enhanced vision. He grimly explains to Saya that the people attacking them are no longer the same individuals who left the group earlier. Terrified by what this means, Saya asks if Lu Sheng means these enemies are imposters pretending to be their teammates. While Saya looks shocked, Tang Dun stands quietly nearby. Lu Sheng agrees with the Rockman's earlier instincts, explaining that each enemy has a disgusting, strange smell that Tang Dun's nose was able to detect. Lu Sheng shakes his head and clarifies what is happening. He says they are physically the same people, but the reality is much worse. They signed a slavery contract and have been completely corrupted by a dark power. Suddenly, Lu Sheng's gaze sharpens as he spots something specific. As the bald recruit violently attacks another victim, Lu Sheng focuses on a detail that is invisible to the naked eye. Above the laughing bald recruit, Lu Sheng sees a glowing orange shadow connected to the man's head by a thin thread of energy. He realizes these warriors are being used like puppets, their movements controlled by this dark shadow. Lu Sheng analyzes the strange sight, noting it can only be seen with deep concentration. The aura feels like something he has fought before, realizing it is very similar to the unnameable shadow he faced in the deep abyss of the Azure Star. Lost in thought, Lu Sheng narrows his eyes. He begins to suspect that the entity isn't just controlling the recruits, but might be watching him specifically. The possessed recruits have become so powerful that only the two guides can barely stand up to their leader, Sire. The rest of the surviving warriors have absolutely no chance of fighting back. The battle is a total disaster for the survivors. The possessed recruits act like clones of Sire, easily beating down the other level 12 warriors. The focus of the fight shifts as Sayer, wearing a cruel grin, effortlessly grabs one of the surviving recruits by the neck. The gluttonous captain runs toward them in a panic, screaming for Sire to stop, but his plea is completely ignored. With a chilling and manipulative smile, Sayer tells his terrified captive that there is no real reason for them to fight. He then leans in close, gripping the man's throat, and asks him a simple question. Why did he come to the different sky battlefield in the first place? The terrified recruit breaks down, with tears and snot running down his face as he stammers that his only goal was to become stronger. This is exactly the answer Sire was waiting for. His smile grows wider as he excitedly declares that they both want the same thing. He makes a twisted offer, asking why anyone would refuse the chance to gain strength when the opportunity is right in front of them. Having broken the man's spirit, Sire lets go, letting the recruit fall weakly to the ground. The recruit looks up in confusion, only to see dozens of glowing blue exotic beast cores appear and fall all around him. Sire stands over him like a triumphant demon, his body looking more muscular and powerful. He tells the recruit to take whatever he wants, explaining that it is all his, as long as he accepts the offer. With a wicked smile, the possessed Sayer holds out a glowing blue crystal, making a final offer to the terrified recruit. All this power can be his if he joins them. The recruit looks at the crystal, his face showing a mix of fear and greed as he hesitates, clearly tempted by the promise of immense strength. After a moment, greed wins. With an eager grin, the recruit grabs the crystal and says he is willing to join. Just as the deal is made, a furious voice shouts, calling the recruit an idiot. Both the recruit and Sire look up in confusion. It is the gluttonous captain, standing with the red-haired officer, his face twisted in rage. He asks the recruit if he truly understands what he is joining. The captain gives him a harsh lecture, telling the man to use his brain and think. He screams that nothing in this world is free and that while most mistakes can be forgiven, there is one that is unforgivable. With his voice booming, the captain defines this ultimate sin, letting your soul fall into the abyss and, as a human, willingly becoming a puppet for strange beasts. He asks Sire if he is sure he won't regret this choice. The captain's powerful words snap the other recruits out of their trance. As the dark influence fades, they instinctively back away from Sire's group, their greed replaced by shock and fear. With his plan to corrupt the others ruined, Sire's face twists in rage, cursing the guides for being so annoying. His transformation gets even more intense, with cracks spreading across his face and his eyes glowing red and white. With a mad grin, he declares that he has already given up on being human. Watching from a safe distance, Saya is horrified by this confession. He shouts in disbelief that Sayer is a traitor to humanity, questioning how he could betray his own kind. Sayer just laughs like a madman as his body explodes with a powerful dark purple aura. He mocks the accusation, asking what is so bad about joining the beasts while showing off how powerful he has become. Surrounded by crackling purple energy, the possessed Sayer reaches out, boasting that he never could have reached this level of power if he hadn't joined the beasts. As his dark energy washes over them, the red-haired officer and the gluttonous captain scream in shock. They feel their own hands starting to twist and change under the influence of what the captain calls the twisted power of the void. Refusing to be corrupted, the red-haired officer grits her teeth and, with a quick, decisive move, cuts off her own transforming hand to stop the dark energy from spreading, cursing in frustration. Now standing with a fresh wound, the officer looks at Sayer with a mocking smile. She taunts him, saying that no matter how strong he is nothing more than a dog. She points out that with his natural talent, he might have reached level 13 or even 14 on his own, but now his potential is stuck. She laughs, explaining that being the dog of a level 13 beast means he will never be able to surpass that level, calling him stupid for making such a short-sighted choice. The insult works, and Sayer's face twists in anger as he demands to know what she just said. Saya, now siding with the guides, joins in the mockery. He scolds Sayer, pointing out that only those with infinite potential are allowed on this battlefield. He asks why anyone would trade a bright future for a temporary power boost, accepting the shameful title of a traitor to humanity, just to become a dog for the beasts. Saya continues to rub salt in the wound, explaining with a smirk that Sayer made a terrible deal. By becoming a subordinate, he has blocked his own future, as a beast commander would never allow an underling to become stronger than itself. He calls Sayer stupid, saying he lost everything for a gain that wasn't worth it. As the guides and recruits keep insulting him, Lu Sheng watches the scene from the side with a quiet, amused smirk. The other recruits, now fully recovered, burst out laughing, pointing at Sayer and calling him a moron for being so brainless. Pushed to his limit by the constant mockery, Sayer's composure completely shatters. He trembles with pure rage, struggling to form words. Finally, his mind snaps. With his eyes glowing a menacing red and his face twisted in hatred, he lets out a final, blood-curdling scream, vowing to kill every single one of them.